That through your trips through the Carolinas, you also spoke with the number one recruit in 2026, which is Tennessee quarterback commit Faizon Brandon. And most of the conversation when we talk about him on this show is I'm asking one of our recruiting analysts, how nervous should Vols fans feel about securing his commitment? But I want to ask you, after having a conversation with him, how excited should Vols fans be if they're able to hold on to Faizon Brandon about what his potential is?
Just a great kid. I mean, to start there, I mean, just very even keeled. He reminds me in some ways of Nico, the guy they already have, and that he just doesn't seem to get too high or too down. He's very even keel, feels built for this kind of current moment. I was talking to him about, just the pressure that comes with being the number one overall recruit, the pressure that comes with, he was in a national lawsuit, suing the state of North Carolina. Just he seems to handle that really well, and I think that makes me feel confident about his ability to handle some of the things that are going to come with a fan base that cares a lot, 100,000 plus fans, a lot of pressure that can come with being the Tennessee QB. He seems to be really well suited to handle that. Of course, physically, there's a lot to like. There's been a lot of good talent that's come through Grimsley. I mentioned one earlier, and talking to their coach, I mean, this guy is just different, right? Built different. The way he throws the ball is just different. So there's just a lot to like. Again, Coop could probably talk to you even better than I can about just physically what he can bring on the table, but I think also just from the off the field, mental, emotional components of how do you handle this current era of college football. I think he's really well built for that.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to get to talk about the makeup of the kid and what it takes to be the number one player in the country. Yesterday we're on this show, we're talking about the last 8 years and doing a bracket of, all right, which one of these guys would move on. But specifically with the quarterbacks, and even not the quarterbacks, I mean, you look at Jeremiah Smith, you look at Travis Hunter, what all these guys had in common, with all due respect, outside of Antonio Alfano, and we talked about him, was the wiring. To be the number one player now, yes, obviously you have to have the physical traits. You have to have the desired physical makeup that NFL teams seek, also colleges seek at the highest level as well. But these guys have gone to have tremendous amount of success at every level because of the way that they're wired. And you think about Faizon Brandon in the way that he's put together, being around him at Elite 11 in Atlanta, seeing him at multiple exposures. He came down, competed San Antonio at the All-American Bowl, and threw when he didn't have to. So this is a guy that the more that we're around him, we know the true ability of the player, the person in terms of the wiring and what that's going to look like, because the pressure is going to be tenfold and it's going to be ramped up at every level, right? What's it going to look like on Saturday? What's it going to look like on Sunday? And that's what Nico Iamaleava is going through right now in Knoxville. They expect him to take a step. So when you have the blessing and the burden of being the number one player in the country, there's a lot of different ways that you can handle it. You can either rise to the occasion or you can fold under that pressure. I think Faizon Brandon is made of the right stuff. And I think Tennessee, if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to be happy that you have two signal callers like Nico Iamaleava, Faizon Brandon. What they have under Josh Heupel, give him a lot of credit because that's hard to find anywhere else in the country.
He honestly reminds me some of, from a demeanor standpoint, the guy who was number one in your bracket and Bryce Young. I mean, there's just something about him, very cool and collected. Covered Bryce closely at Alabama, and you trusted him to make the right decisions in crucial moments because, again, he didn't get too hot or too low. And not to knock on him, but I covered Mac Jones very closely at Alabama and ended up having a great year and led him to a national championship. But the early knock on Mac, and Nick Saban said this to his face, was that, like, you're like John McEnroe. Like, you're just wild and up and down. You miss a throw. I don't even have to see the play. I can just read it on your face and know that you missed the guy. And that's not how you have to be as a QB, especially, I think, in this current world. And so I think Faizon handles that, again, really well. And that's the thing that, whether it's Coop or other guys, I think it's always the hardest thing to kind of judge and know is the kind of the makeup, the demeanor, we can see the physical tools, but how does this guy handle that 3rd and 8 game on the line? What do you do? That takes a lot of mental toughness. And I think sometimes guys, whether in college or go on to the NFL, it's always the hardest thing to fully know what's inside a guy's head until you put him through it. And we'll see how he handles college. But again, just from what I've seen, talking to his coach, talking to other people around him, he seems to have a lot of what you want makeup-wise, again, to handle, playing in the SEC. That's not easy, but I think he has a lot of what you want. And again, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I don't think there's anything to be worried about. I'm not the recruiting expert, but I don't think there's anything to be worried about. But I'm a Tennessee fan. I'm extremely excited and very hopeful that he does sign on the dotted line and that he enrolls in December as expected.
I can tell you too, John, there's a lot of Tennessee fans who are excited about the prospect of having that young man on their campus in just a few years. Thank you, John. Hey, John Talty and Armin Katayan, they wrote the book on the current college football landscape. It is very interesting. You can check out The Price, What It Takes to Win in College Football's Era of Chaos, and find it wherever you get books these days.